Several car manufacturers would be mentioned when discussing prestigious cars, and Mercedes-Benz is undoubtedly one of them. With a rich heritage of over 130 years, Mercedes-Benz has become synonymous with excellence, elegance, and innovation. But like its name, the predecessor of Mercedes-Benz didn't come from one man only, and surprisingly, these predecessors were once rivals. In today's video, we will wander to the era before Mercedes-Benz was established in 1926 and see how this rivalry became a partnership and produced one of the most prestigious cars in the world today. The origin of Mercedes-Benz came from Benz patent Motorwagen, Carl Benz's creation of the first internal combustion engine in a car, and from the Mercedes automobile, conversion of a stagecoach with the addition of a petrol engine that was first marketed by Daimler Motor and Gesellschaft, DMG, owned by Gottlieb Daimler. These automobiles were introduced to the world in the same year. Carl Benz's car was patented in 1886, and Daimler's automobile was introduced later that year. Carl Benz was born Carl Friedrich Michael Wieland on 25 November 1844 in Mühlberg, Germany. His parents didn't have a legal marriage when he was born, so Carl carries his mom's surname at first. They married a few months later, and Carl acquired the Benz name. At 2 years old, Carl's father died of pneumonia, and he changed his name to Carl Friedrich Benz to remember his father. Benz attended a local school in Karlsruhe and was named a prodigious student. Then he attended Karlsruhe's Polytechnical School under the instruction of Ferdinand Redenbacher. At first, he studied locksmithing, but then he changed his focus to locomotive engineering, following his father's occupation. Benz spent 7 years of professional training in several companies. In 1871, he launched the iron foundry and mechanical workshop along with August Ritter. Ritter was unreliable, and the business's tools were impounded. Thankfully, Bertha Ringer bought out Ritter's share in the company. They got married a year later. Carl Benz led the development of new engines in their factory and worked on new patents to get more revenue. Thanks to his genius, he registered some inventions, creating a reliable petrol two-stroke engine, speed regulation system, the ignition using sparks with battery, the spark plug, carburetor, clutch, gear shift, and water radiator. In 1882, Carl Benz and Bertha Ringer's company had to become a joint stock company because of the demand from Mannheim's bank and the high production cost it maintained. The company changed its name to Gasmotor und Fabrik Mannheim after associating with Emil Bühler, a photographer, and his brother, a cheese merchant. But Carl Benz spent only a year in this corporation. He was unhappy because he merely left with 5% of the share and a modest position as director, so his ideas weren't even considered when designing new products. After resigning from the corporation, Benz founded a new company producing industrial machines, Benz & Company Rheinische Gasmotorenfabrik. He was with Max Rose and William Eislinger, who owned a bicycle repair shop in Mannheim, and the company also produces static gas engines. The latest corporation's success urged Benz to design his old passion of a horseless carriage. Using his experiences with bicycles, he tried to apply them to an automobile. In 1885, his creation finished and was named Benz Patent Motorwagen. It was patented in 1886 as an automobile fueled by gas. A few years later, Benz created and began Motorwagen Model 2 and then began to sell it. It became the first commercially available automobile in history. Motorwagen Model 3 with wooden wheels was introduced at Paris Expo in 1889. Benz & Company Rheinische Gasmotorenfabrik, later known as Benz & became the largest automobile company in 1899 with 572 units produced. Their employees also surged from only 50 in 1889 to 430 in 1899. Now we're going to the other side. Gottlieb Wilhelm Daimler was born in 1834, 10 years before the birth of Carl Benz. He was born to Johannes Daimler and Friederika in Schöndorf near Stuttgart. In 1847, at 13, Daimler started to get interested in engineering. After primary and secondary school, he trained as a gunsmith under master gunsmith Hermann Reitel. 5 years later, he left his hometown, abandoned gunsmithing, and pursued mechanical engineering. he was enrolled in Stuttgart School for Advanced Training in Industrial Arts. In 1853, with the assistance of Ferdinand von Steinweiss, he got work at Rollet und Schwilke, R&S. He performed well, as he was named a foreman when R&S started making railway locomotives in 1856. He also studied at Stuttgart's Polytechnic Institute to hone his skills and gain an understanding of steam locomotives. He conceived small, cheap, simple engines for industrial use, inspired by the newly developed gas engines in that era. A few years later, he moved to England and joined the Bruderhaus Reutlingen, a Christian socialist toolmaker, as an inspector. In the same year, he met Wilhelm Maybach, a 15-year-old orphan. In August 1872, Daimler joined the Deutz AG Gasmotorenfabrik in Cologne. He was appointed as the new technical director, bypassing the half-owner of the company, Niklas Otto, and also brought in Maybach as the chief designer. Problems arose when Otto patented his engine, known as Ottocycle, in 1877. Daimler feared Otto's patent would prevent him from making his engine. Reportedly, Otto was jealous of Daimler's inventiveness because of his university background. Daimler's idea, which wanted to build a small engine that could be applied to transportation, was rejected by Otto, who had no interest in the concept. When Otto excluded Daimler from his engine patents, and as things worsened, Daimler was fired in 1880. Maybach resigned shortly after and followed Daimler. In 1882, Daimler and Maybach spent years devising their engine in Daimler's summer house in Cannstatt. At Daimler's insistence and with Maybach's more creative thinking, they eliminated the clumsy, complicated slide valve ignition. A year later, they patented their first Legroin-fueled engine. It achieved Daimler's goal of being small and running fast enough. 3 years later, they created a carburetor, which mixed gasoline with air, allowing its use as fuel. In November 1885, Daimler began the first internal combustion motorcycle, the Reitwagen, or riding car, and Maybach tested it for 3 kilometers from Cannstatt to Untertürkheim. Daimler finally founded his own engine business, Daimler Motorengesellschaft, DMG, in 1890, focusing on constructing small and high-speed engines that they had developed based on the same stationary engine technology. They sold their first automobile in 1892. In 1896, Daimler and Benz converged, not in a delightful situation. Daimler sued Benz Corporation, Benz & C, for violating his 1883 patent on hot tube ignition. Daimler won the case, and DMG received a royalty payment from Benz. When in court in Mannheim, Daimler did not meet Benz, and even in the founding of the Central European Motor Car Association later, Daimler and Benz did not speak to each other. Sadly, Daimler had heart problems. Once in the winter of 1892, he collapsed, and in 1900, he passed away. But after Daimler's passing, Maybach contracted with Emil Jelinek to design a revolutionary sports car for him. The car was then called Mercedes 35 HP, named after Emil's daughter, Mercedes Jelinek. Emil Jelinek was a businessman and marketing strategist who successfully promoted horseless Daimler automobiles among the highest circles of society in his adopted home. He also sold the Mercedes to the United States billionaires such as Rockefeller, Astor, Morgan, and Taylor. In 1901, DMG registered Mercedes as a protected trademark, but it was missing a distinctive brand. Gottlieb Daimler's sons then remembered that their father used a star as a symbol. The DMG management followed this as an inspiration and registered the three-pointed star as their trademark. The three-pointed star is ultimately used. A three-dimensional star has adorned the front radiator of DMG automobiles from 1910 onwards. In 1923, after World War I, Germany faced an economic crisis. Benz & C only produced 1,328 units in Mannheim. DMG was even worse. They only made 1,020 units in Stuttgart. Because of rapid inflation, the average cost of an automobile was also rising. This condition brings negotiation for both companies, and a year later, they signed an agreement of mutual interest. In 1926, Benz & C and DMG finally merged as Daimler-Benz Company, bringing the 1902 Mercedes 35 HP, DMG's most crucial automobile, along with Benz's name, into the character we all recognize today, Mercedes-Benz. The following year, their sales numbers soared to almost 8,000 units sold. In 1928, the infamous Mercedes-Benz SSK, the abbreviation of Super Sports Curs, or Super Sport Short, was introduced. A year after the Mercedes-Benz SSK was presented, Carl Benz died. Even though Carl Benz and Gottlieb Daimler weren't friends and probably met only a few times, their company, putting their rivalry aside, continued to produce many electronic and mechanical innovations throughout the years. Currently, Mercedes-Benz is known as one of the world's best and longest-standing automotive brands. And the three-pointed star graces Mercedes-Benz vehicles even today. It has become a global symbol of quality and safety. And also, the Mercedes-Benz name is universally associated with tradition and innovation, just like Carl Benz said, "The love of inventing never dies." That is the story behind one of the most prestigious cars in the world, Mercedes-Benz. So it's good to see that even rivalry could bring good fortune for both sides. Have you ever heard of their history? What inspiration did you gain from the Mercedes-Benz story? Please share it with us in the comments section below.